Welcome to chapter number 2 of the Garden of Chaos. Joy is pain, and vice versa. This one is dark. This one is specifically labeled dark. Out of all the other chapters, this one is specifically labeled dark, so, yeah, that's a thing. And this one is with Pinkie Pie. Yay! It's not gonna be joyous. I am Soup, whatever the fuck you want to call me, and I'm reading your shit today. Well, I'm reading the story today. Let me just make sure. Yes, everything's all good. You know, somebody once told me that I wasn't loud enough. How about now? Oh, fucking hell. I'll get to the story time.
La 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 la.
Pinkie Pie carried herself through the eerie maze with the same springless step she had always moved about Ponyville with. Many ponies wouldn't care to notice, but her springing around seemed to move her at the same speed as a pony who galloped or even flew. She worked in mysterious ways, and her friends chose not to question it. Which is a generally quite smart move, because
She's Pinkie Pie.
The pink pony appeared not to be bothered by the garden maze, believing it to be like any other maze she could have found her way through. Regardless of her lack of experience in dealing in such matters, she followed the twists and turns and didn't find any sort of dead end as yet. This told her that she was doing well, and perhaps she would find her element after all. As the mare traveled, she found herself getting deeper into deeper parts of the maze. The air around her grew cold, as if ghosts plagued the area, and the sky became darker and darker the further she went. Unfortunately, Pinkie Pie couldn't be bothered to stop and do this fact, because she's Pinkie Pie. Any questions about that? Yes? Shut the fuck up, she's Pinkie Pie. Instead, she continued on her merry way until she bumped against something soft and fell right back onto her keister. Offer's words, not mine. She opened her eyes and rubbed her head about to apologize to whatever it was that she hit, only to find that she saw nothing but pitch black. Fuck if I know. The potty pony lifted herself back up on all four hooves and called out to the emptiness.
Hey, who turned out the sun?
There was nothing but silence for a few brief seconds. Then she heard laughter suddenly surround her, as if it was coming from all directions at once. She felt relieved, as if some pony had gotten her joke and decided to spare her some embarrassment by laughing. No, this was a different kind of laughter. This was the kind she rarely heard, unless there was something threatening Ponyville or her friends. It was maniacal laughter. The laugh of a madman. Kind of like that, except, actually scary. The laughter drew closer to her, and Pinkie whirled her head around to try and locate the source of the noise. Finding herself unable to do so, she was cornered by the laughter, fearing that whatever mean thing was out there was out to get her. Why, hello there, my lovely little protege of chaos. What a nice surprise. I don't remember what my Discord voice sounds like. The laughter stopped, and a cheery voice called to her, one that Pinkie instantly remembered as belonging to the god of chaos himself.
Oh, hi Discord. What are you up to?
Oh, you know, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Right now I'm trying to teach a certain some pony a hard lesson, and she's just not quite getting it. As dense as she ever was, Pinkie Pie smiled through Discord's words, and the darkness that surrounded her before she replied.
Ooh, I bet she's really stubborn too. I know Dashy's like that all the time.
Oh, very. She's also quite the poofy-maned chatterbox. At this, Pinkie gave a look of confusion as she finally questioned his words.
Wait, that sounds a lot like
Pinkie felt a light object spread her mouth open and forced her to clench her teeth around it. She had no idea what it was, but it had the unfortunate side effect of leaving her incapable of speech. With no words able to be deciphered, Discord lifted his paw to his ear to mockingly listen to the pink pony's angry grunts with a sense of joy. What's that, Pinkie? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm afraid I can't understand you with that lovely ball gag over your mouth. It's a shame. I really want to play a nice game of Find and Light Switch with you. Oh, Discord, you cynical bastard. Fuck you, I'm drinking water because I want to. Fuck you. Pinkie Pie stomped her hooves in disapproval as Discord's removal of her ability to speak greatly upset the mayor. Discord noticed her stomping and moved himself closer to her before rubbing a single claw along her back and neck, causing her to shudder weakly. It felt odd to her, as Pinkie didn't really understand the sensation. I always thought you liked toys. Then again, I suppose the effect isn't complete without the full set. A light finger snap echoed through the dark space, and Pinkie felt herself assaulted with strange feelings yet again. Almost as if many clawed hands were touching her body at once and manipulating her every feeling to that of a soft touch on her smooth coat. When the feelings of paws roaming along her body had finally stopped, she attempted to move again, to shake herself loose from whatever it was that just happened. She felt tugs from all over. Her tail had been bound into a knot and was being pulled directly upwards, revealing all of her body to open air. Meanwhile, her hind legs seemed to be shackled and chained to small rings on the ground, while her front hooves were held up and harnessed, almost in a begging position. Not only that, but she felt a saddle, one of the kinkiest pieces of clothing a mare could wear, tied tightly around her midsection, which left her with much less breath than she would have liked. Pinkie Pie felt a breeze on her mare hood, which caused her to shiver once more. She winced for a brief moment as she felt vulnerable for the first time in her life, while Discord only laughed at her position. There you go. Now you're dressed up quite nicely for your punishment. Her weak noise showed Discord that she knew she still had much to fear from him. There'd be no more fun and games for this pony, he continued, taking a few steps closer to the mayor's face before lifting her chin with his paw and laughing directly in her face. Oh, if you could see yourself now. You're a sight for sore eyes, Pinkie. Pinkie tried to look around, but realized that as she did so, she wasn't seeing darkness. Her eyes were covered. She was blindfolded, and she had no way of removing it. Thinking quickly, she attempted to shake it off, but found it to be a fruitless endeavor as the beast in front of her chuckled. Here, let me show you. The mare froze up as two clawed hands grasped her head and gently untied the blindfold around her. She tried to hold still, but the brushing of her mane made her feel ticklish, even at a time like this. When the blindfold finally lowered, she opened her eyes to find an unusual sight. Colors swirled in front of her in large spirals. They appeared so entrancing that she couldn't look away, even if she wanted to. Discord had timed it perfectly so that the first thing she saw were his hypnotic eyes staring into hers. Pinkie Pie's eyes began to reflect the same swirl as her head went to lip in Discord's paw. She fell under a spell relatively easily, and this only made the Draconicus happier as she released her, allowing her to remain staring straight forward once more. It feels right to be in this position, doesn't it? Your friends sure seem to think so. Fuck. I don't know which one is supposed to be which. I'll take a guess. As Discord spoke, the mayor began to hallucinate, seeing images of her friends in a close circle all around her, all with glares of malice as they shouted at her. In a clockwise order, they yelled at the poor mare, insulting her directly to her face, as if they meant every syllable. You're such a waste of my time, Pinkie Pie. I never should have gotten to know a weirdo like you. All you do is bounce off walls and wreak havoc on us hard-working ponies. I figure you look mighty fun being hog-tied where you belong. I can't believe I would ever spend time around such a lowly mongrel. A worthless mare who can't keep her mouth shut. I don't know if that's actually accurate, for the record, because it doesn't say which one is saying which. I know I'm kind of breaking off from the story, which I'm trying to do. The only ones that are obvious are Applejack and Rarity, because the way their manner of speaking is, the manner of speaking is very defined. Like, I'm gonna guess the first one would be Rainbow Dash. Like, I'm gonna guess the second one would be Twilight. Third one is obviously Applejack. Fourth one is obviously Rarity. So I'm gonna guess the fifth one is Fluttershy. That's a complete guess. I could be, dead fucking wrong on that, but,
Go with it!
Their words stung, and with each piece of the verbal assault, she felt a hard smack on her flank to accentuate the pain. It wasn't a hoof that did it, either, but instead a wooden paddle that left a large red mark on her normally bright pink rear. Pinkie felt as if she couldn't disagree with her friends. They were always right, and she was always wrong, after all. How dark. Discord decided that this was the perfect opportunity to take advantage of her mental deterioration. With a swift motion, he grabbed her mane and pulled it back, causing the mare to yell out through her gag in pain before he whispered to her, "It looks like your friends aren't really there for you after all. But look at the smiles on their faces." Pinkie returned her gaze to face forward, finding Applejack, Twilight, and Rarity all looking at her with furrowed brows and evil grins. It's true. The mares were smiling, and Pinkie I had long since made it clear that she wanted her friends to smile. She would go to any lengths to make that a reality. In her entranced state, she was starting to piece together what Discord was telling her. They love to see you get the punishment you deserve. Don't you agree? The pink mare's eyes slowly brought themselves back to face her captor, and she gave a weak nod, as if affirming his question as she mumbled, The Draconicus continued this time, whispering closely to her, as his body brushed against her soft coat in a more sensual embrace. All you need was someone to show you that you're a worthless mare who needs to be taught a lesson. Listen to them laugh at you. You know they're right. Pinkie Pie could hear it. The laughter of her friends echoed around her, teasing her, mocking her, taunting her. She really was a worthless mare. Without a word, she nodded once more, approving of the new outlook she had been forced to see from. Just then, the mare felt something probing her rear. It was hot, throbbing, and pressing into her flank as some kind of warning. Pinkie knew what it was and attempted to squirm under her binding weakly, but to no avail. The ball gag made her yell of disapproval much less noticeable, and Discord paid it no mind. Instead, he called out to the imaginary ponies as he stood directly behind her, grasping her sides and pressing himself right up against her opening. What do you think, ladies? Should I give this unruly cunt the rutting she deserves? Yeah, sure, a thing or two. All the pain she's put us through. Give her life some meaning for once. You heard the audience. Discord caressed her sides as he leaned down to whisper in the mare's ear, certainly not preparing her for the rough treatment she was about to receive. You never had any real friends, only the judgmental ponies whose lives you ruined, all just to feel the thrill of being humiliated for them. It's the least you can do for us, right? Hearing that, Pinkie's eyes welled up in tears. While she could not bawl with a gag in her mouth, her tears certainly flowed freely as she resigned herself to her fate. However, there was another less obvious reaction from others. She had gotten wet at the concept of humiliating herself for the joy of others. Now her body and mind both wished that her torment would continue, simply so that she could be punished like she knew she deserved. As soon as Discord had felt that he was satisfied with her response, he reached forward and brushed Pinkie's mane gently, giving her a moment of reprieve before he whispered yet again. Let's give this shameful body of yours a fine workout, shall we? At that, his hand balled up in a bit of her mane and tugged roughly, pulling her back and making her scream out as his hardness was thrust into her. She felt it immediately, and her eyes went wide in shock from the sheer violence of the entrance. Her scream was muffled by the gag, and it only served to add to the helpless feeling Pinkie Pie had come to now recognize as the norm. The Draconicus highly enjoyed the power trip he felt as he quickly drew his member out and thrust himself back into her. He was met with much resistance, but he simply broke through it and created quite the bulge poking out of Pinkie Pie's soft belly as her member fit snugly inside her depths. Her pink pie, as he'd come to call it, was simply exquisite in the way that it clamped down and seemed to squeeze him for every inch of his flesh. Her body betrayed her groans of pain and instead offered a comfortable home for the vicious poundings he delivered unto the mare. All the while, the ponies around Pinkie Pie cheered and continued to mock her as she received her punishment while still bound in place. They clamored for Discord to fuck her deeper, faster, harder. Even to go so far as to let her feel it in that thick skull of hers. They were full of malice, and they directed it all at the broken pink mare. Her hooves began to grow weak under the intense stimulation she was feeling. She didn't want to stand up anymore. With the binds in place, she had no choice. Even Pinkie had to admit that she found the way her body was limited to just her privates being forcefully fucked had turned her on immensely. She had no idea why, but her mind told her that it did. Ooh, you have such a needy pussy, Pinkie Pie. I wonder if you could endure holding in a cream filling. Pinkie was immediately fond of the idea. She'd got to be filled to the brim with cream and forced to hold it in all day. It would amplify her shame, and her body reacted in its own by bucking her veer against Discord. She assisted his slams as an evil smile spread across his face. Such a cute little troublemaker she was, but she was far cuter when she was forced to endure her own pleasure and perceive it as a punishment. It was perfect for such a young and naive mare like her. She needed to be taught a lesson, and Discord was more than happy to teach it. Discord still had no idea what she was saying, but he quickly got a clue as to what he thought she said. With a little fanfare, even much of a scream for the pink pony, the mare's juices flowed freely along the hot flesh, pumping into her as her inner walls contracted harder than ever before. She had orgasmed, and even though she hadn't announced it, she wanted him to reach his climax as well. You want it that badly, do you? To come before me only worsens your punishment, my dear. Pinkie Pie, still in the throes of her orgasm, couldn't hear what Discord said and instead chose to moan aloud for a gag. In an instant, she heard another finger snap, and a freeing sensation surprised her before a puff of smoke flooded the area. When she opened her eyes again, everything was gone. Her friends, the bindings, her ball gag. She had her freedom. But that's when she felt herself being pressed into the ground by a massive force from behind. Discord. He was still there, and with a single powerful thrust, every muscle in Pinkie Pie's body felt like gelatin. She fell forward onto her belly, trying to hold herself up on her front hooves before she realized even that was useless. There was still more of him that hadn't fit. He was just so long. When she felt him press up right against her womb and create a noticeable bulge from his girth, she let out a powerful moan that which the ball gag would have muffled. The pink pony felt the Draconicus sliding out from her sensitive walls and bit her lip when he thrust himself all the way back in, slamming her belly into the ground once more. He wasn't letting her off so easily, not without making sure she had experienced the rough punishment he had intended for her. Just as he had planned, he could see her face silently enjoying his performance, even as he tore into her and forcefully held her to the ground. What do you want? Tell me. Discord shouted as he gave a firm smack on Pinkie's rear, eliciting gasp and surprise. I didn't yell that. or shout that, because fuck you. She turned back to him, and he could see his spell working its magic. Her eyes, mane, and coat began to lose all color as she pleaded aloud to the god of chaos. I want to be punished. I don't know if that was a very good Pinkie voice, but fuck you. Her cotton candy-styled mane seemed to deflate as her pain expression grew into a sort of broken smile. Discord couldn't help but snicker at the rapid change he had made, even if the flat-made Pinkie seemed a bit dull on the eyes. As the pink mare took on a deep shaded gray, her less filled words finally got through to the pumping beast behind her, and he succumbed to his climax. In what could be considered one of the most violent orgasms Discord had ever experienced, he thrust it all the way into the pink mare and pressed his entire body against hers on the ground. The Draconicus emptied his seed until he had filled her womb to the point of overflowing. Not only that, but under him, the mare was spasming as she reached her own peak, having been thoroughly ravaged by the creature behind her. She screamed out and became quite vocal now that she had the capability to do so, only serving to impress Discord with just how much she had been enjoying it. Reveling in the afterglow, he slowly pulled himself away from the mare and scanned her body as if to evaluate his work. She rested on the garden floor, panting and with a red face and rear from so much abuse that she admitted to wanting. Even now, he looked down at her nethers, and she held the hoof there, attempting to hold the cream inside her pie, just like he had asked. A smug grin crossed his face as he tiptoed round the mare and floated down another pathway through the maze onto his next victim. Now just lay there and think about what makes you happy, my little stuffed pie. Pinkie allowed her belly to extend out as she took heavy breaths, trying to take in Discord's final words to her, as she sat there in her post-orgasmic bliss. She spoke quietly as if to reassure herself with her newfound desire that the Draconicus bestowed upon her. I want to be punished. Being punished makes me happy. And that was that. What'd you think of it, Beta? I thought it was good. So that was Joy's Pain and Vice Versa with Pinkie Pie. Now, I warn you, there are only 2 labeled dark, and that was pretty fucking dark. The other one is the very last chapter, and since you can... Fuck you. And since you can just search up the story and fucking figure out what it's called anyways, it's called Love Your Master, and it has Twilight. Seeing as I like Twilight the most, I'm genuinely scared for that. Next time on Garden of Chaos, however, we will read, or I will read, or somebody will read. I don't fucking know who's going to be reading it. If you want it done right, with rarity, or rarebit. Until then, I have been Soup. This has been my cat Beta, even though you can't fucking see him. He decided to come up and chill in my lap for some ungodly reason. I don't know how loud it's going to turn out, so I do kind of like to speak slow and kind of like not that loud and methodically when I read these. So if I'm quiet during this, I really, really do apologize. But like, especially like when, you know, other people are here and I don't like to record, that I'm even more quiet because it's like, oh, fuck, I don't want to hear this shit. But yeah, you get the idea. So, yeah, next time, if you want it done right. I hope you all enjoy it. I have been Soup, and yeah, see you next time.